The idea of this podcast episode was born when I stumbled upon an article at metro.co.uk, which was called "I'm a Drinks Rider and These Booze Trends Should Die in 2025." And two of the main facts in this article were one, dry January, and second, overpriced non-alcoholic drinks. And I started reading, and it was read in a very funny way, but it came to the conclusion that dry January has become such a ignorant word. Everybody is using it, and quote, "How do you know if someone's doing dry January? They tell you over and over again." And nothing says New Year, New You like turning every social outing into a monastic retreat of abstinence. And well, this is basically it. Health experts even advise, or starting to advise, against dry January, because it seems to be like people are drinking even more in February, coming out of dry January, and just hating it. The author comes to the conclusion that just cutting down on your drinking levels should be a better option, a better opportunity, rather than spending a whole month without the booze and then just getting back to everyday life. Well, there is several approaches to that, and I guess one of the main things is that, of course, drinking less but better should be an option. Moderating your consumption should be something as well, but in the end, statistically seen, 40% of people coming out of dry January also drink less over the whole year. So if this is an option for somebody to cut down on their drinking habits, why not taking part? Why not participating in dry January? And when it comes to the fact that that non-alcoholic drinks are overpriced, well, we will come up on that in this episode. This episode will show you some opportunities and the challenges come within. We will talk about the market developments in the major markets, UK, Germany, US, and also Italy is jumping on a train after they have introduced a new rule being able to de-alcoholize wine if you are a business in Italy. So have fun with this episode dedicated to moderate drinking. Let's go. Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 231, dedicated to moderate drinking, the developments in the major markets, and solutions for you as a business, how to adapt to the changing market and the consumer behavior, and some tips for you as a consumer, how to find your perfect balance when it comes to moderate drinking. I would like to start talking about the current development in the markets, in the major markets, the UK, the US, and also Germany, and some markets that are becoming more and more interested in the upcoming trend of alcohol-free drinks, or at least just drinking less. I would like to start with the UK. The UK has seen a decline in wine consumption over the last years, and there are many factors that contribute to this current development. And there was an article in the NBC News, and the author put it on point, quote, "People's budgets are just really tight these days, so wine is feeling the crunch." In addition, there was a Gallup study that recently found out that 4 in 10 Americans now think alcohol is unhealthy, and there were many studies and articles contributing to that. And the main reason for the decline in wine is that wine that comes in large bottles usually requires a corkscrew or extra glasses, and there is a disadvantage compared to convenient of pre-mixed drinks, RTDs on the rise. And it's not that people just dislike wine, it's like they are drinking a much wider variety of things. So with more and more options being present, you can choose whatever you want to, what you want to enjoy. I mean, and of course we're talking about beer, we're talking about spirits, but we are also talking about a growing category of alcohol-free drinks. Non-alcoholic beverages are advantaged not only for those who are wary of the health effects of alcohol, the risks, but also for the businesses that are serving them. As the article points out, retailers love them. If a retailer sees one of their patrons that has had too much to drink, they can give them a water and they don't make any money of it. Instead, they can give them non-alcoholic mixed cocktails or other options. And I mean, this is only one fact where a business can say, well, this might be an option for me. You don't have to be equipped with a 150 products list of alcohol-free drinks, but at least offering some alternatives might be a good option. And there is also a huge opportunity in the market for alcohol-free spirits, especially in the US, where spirits is generally a category that is still growing. Also, of course, fueled by the growing interest in RTDs and ready-to-drinks, which usually are based on spirits. Non-alcoholic spirits have emerged as the fastest growing segments within the broader spirits category in the US, according to IWSR, boasting a remarkable 5-year compound annual growth rate exceeding 60% through 2024. Meaning, over the last 5 years, we have seen a huge rise in the alcohol-free spirits in the United States, and even celebrities are jumping on that train because they already have an existing community, and there might be a major part of them who are interested in reducing their alcohol intake. And not only the US, I mean, we know that the UK and the US are probably one of the most sophisticated markets, well developed, still growing in alcohol-free drinks. Germany is quite mature. Nevertheless, it is an interesting market, especially when you want to enter the European market as an alcohol-free brand. Germany might be also interesting for you. And Italy recently has announced that they will allow companies, wineries, to de-alcoholize wine, to being able to adapt to the trend. And in a context where the debate about alcohol consumption is more intense than ever, the choice to drink wine should go along with a critical awareness. If wine is consumed with moderation and appreciated for its intrinsic qualities, it can remain a significant part of culinary culture. The challenge for the future will be that of educating consumers to make informed choices, ensuring at the same time the sustainability of the wine industry. This was a quote from an article on winenews.it, where experts are talking about the current development in the market and that there is a possibility to, let's just say, keeping the reputation of wine as a substantial part of culture, of social gatherings, staying sustainable as an industry, and in addition, adapting to the growing interest in alcohol-free products. Vincenzo Gerbi is a professor at the University of Turin, the vice president of the Italian Academy of Vine and Wine, and he emphasizes the need for critical awareness in wine consumption. He argues that wine, when enjoyed in moderation and with appreciation for its intrinsic qualities, it can remain a significant part of culinary culture. And he also refers to the warning of the World Health Organization that no amount of alcohol is safe for you, and the link of alcohol to at least 7 types of cancer. And at the same time, there is this view on moderate consumption or moderate wine consumption, rich in plant-based compounds that may offer health benefits. And there are studies that show the one or the other side of the medal. Gerbi calls for a reflection of wine consumption, of the reasons especially behind wine consumption, stressing the importance of valuing taste and aroma over the mere pursuit of intoxication. So it should be more about the product, about the enjoyment and the social gatherings, rather than just getting hammered. And it's good to see that even leading people in the industry in quite old-fashioned wine markets are adapting to the trend and are asking people to rethink their consumption of alcohol, and showing at the same time that the wine industry can benefit from that. And this can be also a call for you as a winery or as a restaurant to adapt to those changes, offering alcohol-free or at least lower ABV products. And a market that has already adapted to this trend is the UK. An IWSR study showed an outlook on the UK market where we have seen absolutely crazy numbers over the last years. The total UK no and low market is expected to have more than doubled in 24 compared to 2023. A beer continues to be the hero of the known low story. IWSR mentions preliminary data shows that non-alcoholic beer grew 20% in 2024. Alcohol-free beer now accounts more for 2% of the total beverage alcohol market sales in the UK, highlighting just how big a part the subcategory is beginning to play in the overall drink sector. And I mean, there have been brands such as Corona, Guinness, or Heineken, which were very, very successful in 2024. We were talking about that in the podcast. The growth of non-alcoholic spirits has slowed, but is expected to have a growth of 7% in 2024. It has slowed down, guys, but it's still 7% annual growth. While sales of low-alcohol wine fell in 2024, the no-alcohol wine category grew by 8%, fueled by brands entering the market. And it's not only local companies that are showing up on the shelves in Waitrose and Salisbury and everywhere else, is also international companies. We recently talked about Moderato and Club Soda, which also started collaborations with Majestics and with other big players in the retail sector. And then there is another thing that is fueling the alcohol-free, or at least the low ABV, the no-low category in the UK, the taxes. There is a change. There will be a change in the tax system, the alcohol tax system in the UK, and this can have positive impacts on the alcohol-free industry. On the one hand, there was an article talking about the chances for bulk wine, because when bulk wine is imported to the UK, you can adjust the ABV levels and then bottling it and, of course, saving taxes in the end. And there are already brands adapting to that. There is a famous brand in the UK called Hardy, and Hardy Stem Shiraz Cabernet quietly reduced its ABV from 13.5% to 11.5% per year. So it is possible to stay quite close to the original taste with a lower ABV level. And this is something that will be done by several companies that are big players in the market, because, I mean, you can save a lot of money when you issue, I don't know, several 100,000 bottles each year. And in addition, bulk wine companies based in the UK can use de-alcoholization technology to offer alcohol-free products and, of course, save taxes as well. And this is a growing industry. And there are only a few options to de-alcoholize wine in the UK, but we are seeing many brands shipping their wines to to Spain, to Germany, getting it de-alcoholized, bringing it back into the country and selling it as alcohol-free. And especially in the UK, where you can save taxes, this is one business opportunity. And the UK market is not focusing that much on the defense of alcohol as a product, and just my personal feeling is that the lobby in the US and in Germany and France and Italy is way bigger than in the UK. Maybe because the UK market historically has always been one that is able to adapt to trends in an easier way and faster as well. And in addition, maybe because it's not known to be a wine growing country. And interestingly, when I talk to growers in the United Kingdom, they see this upcoming trend reacting with verjus, with grape juice, with, de-alcoholized ciders and stuff, because they see it as a conglomerate, as a symbiosis, that you can have both products in your portfolio and still be able to serve a huge peer group. And when we are looking at other countries, they are trying to defend alcohol. And there were many articles, and we talked about this a lot on that podcast, but especially in the US and in Germany, there were many people talking about what is good for you, what is bad for you. You can have wine and still be healthy. And in my opinion, it all comes down to one question. Who do you believe? The scientists or a lobby-fueled jury? I don't know. It's a tough call, and in the end, it's your decision. What should be very important is that the wine industry that is trying to defend alcohol in many, many ways is focusing on the heavy drinkers. Many people are cutting back on their drinking amount, on their alcohol amount, and some people who consume 15 or more drinks a week say that they are unfazed by healthy risks because it's delicious poison and I want to have it. And this is a decision everyone can take on his or her own. And I totally get it. I mean, especially when you turn older, when you turn maybe 55, 60, 65, and somebody tries to convince you that this is not good for your health, you might say, well, I'm just enjoying life and I want to have my 1 or 2 glasses of wine per day. And this is totally fine. It's not about dogmatism. It's about just showing what could happen, and then everyone should decide what he or she wants to do. My favorite quote in all these articles that are either arguing for pro or for against alcohol is, what a lot of folks may have considered moderate drinking is actually moderately risky. Let that sink in. I leave you with this quote, and I would like to head over to what actually is the quality of alcohol-free drinks. Because usually when it comes to arguments between people who are pro or against alcohol consumption, it all comes down to the main facts. It's either too expensive, we will talk about that in a second, alcohol-free drinks are too expensive for what they are, or the quality is not good enough. And usually this is where, because people have tried alcohol-free beer, alcohol-free wine 10, 15, 20 years ago where the quality was shitty, and right now they think it is still the case, but it's not. When it comes to how to find your favorite alcohol-free drink or drinks, quality is essential. And maybe this is why the experts are focusing more on alcohol-free spirits, on sparkling tea, on kombuchas, on proxies rather than alcohol-free beer or wine, because beer and wine went through a process where a lot of the original character of the product and also the approach is removed during the dealcoholization. And I saw this lovely quote on Instagram. It was part of an interview and a podcast, and they were talking about habits and mental health. But I think that the quote is also essential for alcohol-free drinks. And I have heard people talking about alcohol-free drinks in that way. Let me play that for you. The link is in the show notes.
So if I give you a glass of water and then I piss in it and then I add sugar, it doesn't remove the piss. These are both independent things. Removing the piss requires removing the piss. No amount of sugar will take it out of the drink.
You cannot remove the piss. So if you want to have a high quality alcohol-free product, you should have a high quality product before you finish it. And this comes down to alcohol-free beer, alcohol-free wine, and of course also tea, kombucha, and spirits. And there are so many products in the market right now. I tasted over 1,200 of them only last year, and I already have tasted 80 this year. And I would say 70% of them are still shitty. And when I say shitty, I don't talk about taste because, as I said, if you add sugar, some people might consider this as tasty. But when it comes to the original product, well, it is tough to consider this as a good drink. And there is no metric, there are only few reviews in the market where you can just have kind of an orientation while browsing through the sheer huge amount of alcohol-free drinks. But I would say a good tip is to either use the price as an orientation when it comes to alcohol-free wine, because at least at a price point of 15 euro plus in Central Europe, you consider this as being of higher quality, because usually they use the better version of vacuum distillation or a spinning cone. But when you want to focus on really like tasty and high quality products you can also use for food pairing with complexity, with structure, the wine proxies might be a better solution for that. That doesn't mean that there are not high quality products when it comes to dealcoholized wine or beer, but usually when we talk about the bigger brands, they just want to replace the product with alcohol, or at least just impersonate them without the booze. And this works quite well, actually. I mean, if you are a big brand and everybody knows you and knows the taste of their favorite product, it's just easier. When I'm looking for the alcohol-free version of my favorite brand, it's not that difficult to find the alcohol-free alternative, is it? And coming from this, talking about high quality, usually the price is higher. And there are so many people arguing that non-alcoholic drinks are too expensive because there is no booze in it. Yes, because they dedicate too much value to alcohol itself as being the expensive part of it. But if you're looking for enjoyment, for taste, for a delicious product, we are talking about the, I don't know, social gathering, the moment that you are having with your friends, or just the enjoyment while pairing it with your favorite meal. And when you talk to producers, of course, there are many, many arguments why alcohol-free products are more expensive, and we have to consider them more as a crafted product that should suit several occasions, rather than saying there's no alcohol in it and I don't want to pay that much for this product. And when we get back to the UK, of course, there are people arguing that because there is no alcohol in it, you don't have to pay taxes for it, and they should just use this amount they save on taxes and give it back to the consumer. Well, the problem is, it doesn't matter if you're talking about high quality or not. The production of alcohol-free drinks, either the dealcoholization or just the crafting of proxies, is more expensive because it all comes down to the choice of the ingredients, the process making it, and it's the same with wine or beer. If you want to have a crafted product respecting nature, using only natural ingredients, these products are more expensive. They're usually handcrafted, manually worked. You know, it's the same arguments you use for your high quality wine. And I have heard people arguing that alcohol-free drinks are too expensive, that spend hundreds of bucks for wine bottles. And what they don't know is that the actual production of the product is way cheaper, but they are paying for the marketing, for the branding, and everything else. And don't get me wrong, this is totally fine, but we should consider this also as an argument for alcohol-free drinks. And then there are studies, of course, bringing up that many people are just drinking for the booze. And again, this is totally fine. This should be their decision. But when you look at markets such as the US, for example, in the big cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, where we see a growing demand for alcohol-free drinks, it's totally normal to spend 15 or 20 bucks for a drink without alcohol when you go out at night. Because drinking for them is more than just getting tipsy. It's more social gatherings. A quote that I really loved in an article about that was, "For me, cocktails, whether alcohol or non-alcohol, are about more than just getting tipsy. They are an aesthetic experience, an encounter with nature, herbs, spices, fruit, and grains, a social experience with friends, all made possible by producers and bartenders who made the drink possible." So it's not the alcohol that basically describes the meaningful part of the drink, especially during the experience, the time you're spending with friends. And this is the point where you can think about your current consumption of alcohol. Is it more about the occasion and just people enjoying a drink? Or is it more like you want to be tipsy? And when I think about recent interviews, chats I had with friends, with colleagues, with experts in the industry, they all come down to one main point when it comes to non-alcoholic drinks. You should and you cannot compare de-alcoholized wine or beer with their alcoholic counterparts, because it's a completely new set of drinks. And this is how you should think of them. It's a new category with a new approach, with a different approach. And especially the exciting alternatives with little sugar. I mean, if you discover it for yourself and you can adjust to this taste, because also your palate has to learn to taste stuff like that, you should not compare it to normal wine, quote unquote. Alcohol is such an impressive product when it comes to the effect it has on the taste and the mouthfeel of drinks. And think about your first time you had a sip of alcohol and how it tasted. It was bitter, it was like awkward, and there's only few people who really liked it from the beginning, and you adjusted your palate over the years. And again, this is totally fine, and it was normal, and it is still normal in our culture. But once cutting down, you come back to this moment where you feel that the bitterness is coming back, and this might be a point where your palate is again adjusting, but in the opposite direction. And if you're now getting afraid, trust me, this is not bad because you don't have to consume alcohol just because of the alcohol. And if people are shitting on you, and I experience this every single week, even with close friends who say, really? Drinking beer without alcohol? This is tricking your body. This is tricking your brain. No, it's not. It's just a different approach to enjoyment. And right now, there's this question, how should we as an industry adjust to these customers who are interested in these different type of products? And when we think about wine, usually the reputation of wine, it has changed a lot over the last years, but every now and then still people are snobby. There is this wine snobism. People are talking about it like, it's one of the most sophisticated products in the world, and it's one of the most developed agricultural products in the world. The wine language sometimes is intimidating for many, many people, and it would be the worst decision ever to take the worst part of what we all love about wine, talking about wine in a snobby way, and transfer it to the alcohol-free space. So we should not adopt the language of tartaric acid and terroir. Maybe we should just talk about place, about tasty, a mouthful of a drink, about the fruity aromas, that it is refreshing and that it is easy drinking, super pleasant for your mouth, whatever. Just give people the feeling that this stuff is tasty. And then in addition, you can talk about the story of the production. And I mean, again, with the bigger focus on health, of course, you can talk about the herbs, the manual production, the crafting of the product. This should be added in addition. But this sophisticated, snobby-ish language, we should just get rid of that. And I'm not only talking about websites or marketing gurus, I'm also talking about restaurants. And restaurants, depending on who you are talking to, they are starting to adapt to this change. More hotels and restaurants are moving towards alcohol-free drinks, and in my opinion, this is the smartest thing you can do at the moment. The guest is kind of demanding something that is a little bit more complex and a little bit more dynamic, flavor-forward, and still pleasant for his or her favorite meal. So these people still want a beverage experience out of it. It's not just about pleasing your thirst, and they are looking for a product that is balanced, that is tasty, and in that case, they are looking for both sides of the equation. There was a blog article on that in one of my favorite Substack from Oddster, saying that too many bars and restaurants still aren't effectively catering to a growing sober and soberish clientele and leaving good money on the table. Plus, non-alcoholic drinks is something that more and more people want to see on the menus, and an open thread where you can share about your experiences and favorite non-alcoholic beverage. And there are some applications for that, like the Better Without app. A friend and former colleague of mine is using it really heavily. So if you're interested in reading some reviews on alcohol-free drinks and places, check out the Better Without that unpaid advertising. I just love the application. The Oddster blog brings it on point with the quote, "This all means that there's a vast and growing clientele for non-alcoholic beverages that are as thoughtfully considered as all the alcoholic drinks on the menu. And currently, that clientele is being largely ignored." So what he basically is saying is that having zero alcohol drinks on your menu is actually not an option. And you don't have to introduce a huge wine list with 150 alcohol-free drinks. Just start with one or two, even though people are currently not asking for it, maybe because they just don't know how to or they're just not used to it. Just offer 2 or 3 options and see what happens. Watch the magic happen. One of the most successful cocktails worldwide is the Nogroni. The boozy version of the cocktail has seen a huge growth over the last, I would say, decade, and the Nogroni is getting more and more popular as well. There are many people who like the style and the combination of the drink because it gives you fruit, it gives you kind of a bitterness, the refreshing feeling. And for bartenders, it's quite easy to adapt because you just make it the traditional way, but you use spirits without alcohol. And especially when you have spirits with this tart feeling with a slightly bitterness, thinking about Aperol Spritz or Campari Soda. And I'm also a fan of bitters and tonic. It's even tough to spot whether there's alcohol in it or not. And maybe this is also responsible for the huge success of the Negroni. Maybe because it's just fashionable. I don't know. More and more people are talking about it. And I have seen it on several lists over the last couple of months. There are also more and more Michelin star chefs and sommeliers who are considering having something different on the menu. There was a recent article talking about infused water instead of alcohol-free drinks. And don't get me wrong, it's not just water and having a drop of, I don't know, lemon oil or something in it. We are talking about a crafted product, a water that has been infused with herbs, with spices, with teas over 1, 2, 3 days, giving it structure, complexity, and is quite fruit forward, and also able to serve as a good partner in food pairing. And I put the link in the show notes. There was an article on that, on a sommelier who was talking about his formula of making infused water. And as he said, it is very well received by customers because the waters are designed to go with the dishes, with what you put in them. They automatically remind you of the ingredients. So having herbs in the dish and in the water is quite smart idea, actually. More and more diners, especially younger ones, are choosing the water option, but we also serve and drink wine. And so again, it's this adapting to both sides of the industry and just living it in parallel. There are many, many restaurants and bars offering more alcohol-free drinks, especially in the US, of course, but also in Germany, in Austria, in UK, in France. It's getting bigger, usually in the biggest cities and in the capitals of the country. And it's not only a trend towards alcohol-free spirits or cocktails, infused water. Sparkling tea is getting big. Then THC or CBD-infused cocktails, of course, in the countries where it's allowed to use them. And other drinks they sometimes even have this function of serving as a healthy drink, as a healthy alternative. And especially the US is big on this market. And I guess I've tried 5 or 6 of these products. Usually they use mushrooms, like lion's mane or so, where there's still few studies showing the positive impact in this combination, but generally it's a huge trend, and especially the younger ones are adapting to that trend or are driving this trend. And if you haven't considered it yet, these functional drinks are also quite interesting and sometimes also come around the corner with complexity and structure and the aromas and flavors you would expect in a good crafted drink. Sparkling tea has become so important in Central Europe, driven by companies in Scandinavia and even in Germany and Austria, that even the Spiegel, the famous magazine, the German magazine, The Mirror, made an article talking about the category of sparkling tea, how it can serve as an alternative for aperitifs, for weddings, for the apero at a dinner party or in a restaurant, and tasting 16 different products, coming to the conclusion that it is actually a good option and that you can find quality, complexity, and structure in those kind of products. So to sum this up, for the consumer side, check your weekly alcohol consumption, drink less but better, try things. Quality and taste in those products have changed a lot, and the offer is expanding. So whenever you have the chance, try something out. And on the business side, consider introducing alcohol-free drinks or expanding your portfolio to adjust to the market to please a growing target group of curious and health-conscious consumers. And in my opinion, the best solution for every industry, even the ones that are suffering at the moment, is the peaceful coexistence of both categories without alcohol. Have fun while enjoying your alcohol-free drinks or your favorite wine or beer. See you on Wednesday with the weekly update. Ciao, ciao.